And number 5, doctor says to the patient, I've got bad news and worse news. What's the bad news? You've got 24 hours to live. What's the worst news? I tried to get a hold of you yesterday. There you go, your high five.
And that sets the tone for, I don't know, there's absolutely, this is a total non sequitur, but, I can't transition. I can't even make a joke.
Sharon, this is terrific. We've been talking about some heavy-duty stuff, political races, Trayvon Martin, everything going wrong. And you really end us on a very high note. That was terrific.
Well, thank you. That's every comedian's dream to follow a discussion of politics and social warfare, and great.
Well, speaking of social warfare, you saw West Side Story, which is playing through this Sunday at the Kimmel Center.
I certainly did. It was a great production. The choreography was fantastic. I'll tell you, it's such an interesting story behind this. The original Broadway version debuted in 1957, and I think everybody knows it's a story between the Jets and the Sharks. Mm-hmm. But what I found really interesting when I was doing some research on this is that the story was originally written to be tension between Catholics and Jews during Passover and Easter holidays, also taking place on the Lower East Side. But it didn't go anywhere.
That would have been timely this week.
Yeah, exactly. So it just didn't seem to go anywhere. So it was changed to the tension between the Americans and the Puerto Ricans, the new immigrants, and that's, of course, what took off. And then, of course, it debuted on Broadway in 1957 with Carol Lawrence as Maria, Chita Rivera as Anita, and Larry Kurt as Tony. You can't help, Adam, but think of the original. I thought of the movie people. I thought of Natalie Wood and, Russ Tamblyn. You can't help but think of the original cast when you're watching people. So the comparison, of course, is there. Personally, I didn't feel like the Tony and Maria in this production had a lot of chemistry, and that was a little bit disappointing. It just that's the backdrop for everything, of course, their love affair.
Well, I was thinking I want to ask you about the dancing, but I got to say, not to stereotype or anything, but Jews on the Lower East Side versus Puerto Ricans when it comes to dancing, I would go with advantage Puerto Ricans.
I'd go with the Puerto Ricans, too. But, I want to say this, that had they done the original Catholic-Jewish tension version, I feel that the song might have sounded something like this. I feel heavy, oh so heavy. I feel constipated on Pesach. It's true, too much matzah. It's so hard to be a religious Jew. La 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 la. Oi 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 oi.
Totally spontaneous, no doubt. How is the dance? How is the dancing in this production?
The dancing was really, really fantastic. I mean, the choreography was just amazing. It's choreographed by Joey McNeely. The original, of course, Jerome Robbins is the name that everybody knows, who directed and choreographed the original version. This is Joey McNeely and directed by David Saints. The dancing is amazing, and it doesn't even bother you that, the gangs are talking, warfare, and then all of a sudden they do a spin and a little ballet thing,
Yeah.
It would be easy to say, like, this doesn't work, but somehow it works.
Well, the Jets gang can't be any less intimidating than the one in the movie, because, that's even less intimidating than the Beat It video by Michael Jackson, so it can't be worse than that.
And I'll tell you what's different in this version, too, is that the songs like I Feel Pretty and America, they're done in Spanish and English. So I understand that in the Broadway version, they actually have the translation in the playbill. Here, they don't give you that. So, someone like me who's a theater person who knows all the words, I don't need it. I know what they're saying in Spanish. But for people who don't understand Spanish or might not be familiar with the songs, I think they could have given us the words,
And to change subjects, you're appearing in Revenge of the Onion?
Yeah, well, actually, that's a show that was last week. It was the 5th year they did it. This theater company is the only absurdist theater company in Philadelphia. They're actually the smallest theater company in Philadelphia. The name of the company is the Idiopathic Radiculopathy Consortium. It's a mouthful, I know. And what they do every year, and every year I'm in it, they take these stories from The Onion, the funny newspaper, and they work them into monologues. So you have like 10 actors doing 5-minute monologues, each about something different. And I was in that actually 2 weeks ago, and I'm just going to review myself and say I was brilliant. I was the highlight of the show and certainly worth seeing.
Now, you gave a pretty brutal review to Azuka Theater's Hope Street, which has since closed, so there's probably no reason to talk about a play you didn't like, but you did like FELA, and that is continuing. Here's something for our Maine to Miami audience. That's going to be in Boston in a few weeks, and you did like FELA quite a bit.
Exactly. FELA was just fantastic, and I don't know how many people know about this musician who hails from Lagos, Nigeria. But it's amazing. He totally changed the way music was played and performed. He actually performed here in Philadelphia in 1986 and 1989. It was very cool the way they did this at the Academy of Music. It was you felt like you were in the real nightclub called the Shrine that FELA actually owned and operated. And the story revolves around not just his music, but the political corruption and social unrest, the repressive military dictatorships that his music was set against. The voices were amazing. The performers, you just felt like you were watching a Broadway production.
Let me you can stay on the line, Sharon. I've seen quite a few things lately, so while we're being thorough, I should mention a few of the productions I've seen. Maybe you have a funny comment about any of them.
Sure.
But we have about 4 more minutes left on the show. I saw Romeo and Juliet, and that plays through this Sunday, April 8th. The Lantern Theater Company, everything I'm mentioning is in Center City. I haven't gotten around too much. That was outstanding at every level. In particular, someone who wouldn't get much mention, but J. Alex Cordero should be singled out for particularly great work he did as a fight director. Now, they're often faithful renditions of Shakespeare, but the fight scenes probably aren't as good as this one was. And some, Seal Felon in a supporting role. She was in Vigil and Bernice Butterfly in the last year in the area. She's excellent as Juliet's nurse. And the Romeo and Juliet had great chemistry, which is something you can't always count on. And they're very good looking, which is pretty essential for the story. And Herb, you can't really get a 14-year-old to play the role and be a professional actress, even though that's how it's written. But she's beautiful, and she looked as young as one can really expect for an adult professional actress. So that's a great production, probably the best thing out right now in Philadelphia, and that plays through Sunday. You can get that on lanterntheater.org, or is it .com? I don't remember. Cyrano, kind of a similar category. That's at the Arden through April 15th, ardentheater.org. I'll describe that rendition as fairly good of a newly translated classic, which sometimes isn't sure whether it wants to be modern or faithful to the original. Not such great chemistry between the actors. It was okay. It's a good play. And the fight director there, Dale Gerard, also did excellent. And this is sword fighting in both. I saw God of Carnage, which plays through the end of the month, April 29th. That's a fun and short play at the Walnut Street Theater. It's clever, insightful, and keeps the plot line very simple so that the focus can be on individual acting performances and all the little nuances. And the writer, Yasmina Reza, who's Jewish, by the way, she has extremely clever insights about, to use a pretentious, appropriate word here, zeitgeist. And here it's in terms of successful New York City parents. Curse of the Starving Class, that's through this Sunday, the 8th, at Center City's Wilma Theater. I don't think my audience is too avant-garde, and that play was too avant-garde for the taste. Sometimes the Wilma, as you know, is hit or miss, but their mission is to challenge audience. But, I don't need to see urination on a stage. And Burning of the Lamb, I'll stick to. That didn't actually happen on stage, but I'll stick to the Passover story. Finally, from my end.
Adam, you've seen so much theater this week. Have you had a chance to take care of any of your bodily functions?
This is actually from the last 2-3 weeks. And, I also want to mention the Ultimate Pops. That's Peter Nero and the Philly Pops, April 11th through 15th. At the Academy of Music, and that's an eclectic program of Pas favorites. About a week and a half ago, I saw their Surf and Safari at the Pops, and the Beach Boys songs are still in my head 9 days later, and they always do a great job. It's educational and entertaining. Also playing, I haven't seen these yet, Doubt, which is through April 15th at Walnut Street Theater. The Golem, which is based on the old story. I don't know how they're going to do that on the stage. Those are both through April 15th.
That's at Prince Music Theater, right?
Yeah. And no, it's actually on Vine Street somewhere. And also Villanova Theater is doing one of my favorites through April 22nd. That's Carousel. Sharon Geller, SharonGeller.com. Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure.
Let me just say what we have on next Tuesday. We'll be having on